Would you answer your nation's call? After being wrongfully punished, betrayed by politics, thrown into chains, forgotten by his own king, yet he returned. This is Yi Sun-sin, the Saint of the Sea, a man who refused to lose, a man who would bend the tides of war to his will. Quick glance at later battle. A fleet of 13 against an armada of 333. The odds were impossible. The enemy expected easy victory, but one man turned despair into triumph. A commander whose genius would bend the tides of war itself. But greatness isn't born in a single battle. Born on the 28th of April, 1545, in Korea, Yi Sun-sin showed brilliance from a young age. He trained with wooden swords, studied maps, and watched the rivers flow each day, a quiet test of his mind and body, a rehearsal for battles no one yet imagined. Before dawn, he observed the winds and currents, learning the rhythms of nature. Hours of practice sharpened his strength, focus, and precision. Even in small games and exercises, he noticed what others missed. Every motion, every choice, quietly forged the mind of a commander the world would one day fear. Potential alone was not enough. War demanded more. As he grew, Yi's ambition sharpened with every lesson, mastering strategy, tactics, and the art of war. He pushed past ordinary skill. Every strike, every calculation was a step toward honing his potential, forging a mind and body prepared for the chaos of battle. He studied the currents, the winds, and the enemy's patterns as if reading the world itself, every moment a measured step toward mastery. In the quiet of dawn, with only the clatter of practiced swords and the murmur of disciplined men around him, Yi's resolve hardened. Nothing would break him, nothing would catch him unprepared. He practiced formations with small squads, simulating attacks and defenses against imaginary fleets. He studied historical battles, dissecting each commander's decision, learning what led to victory and what brought ruin. Yi experimented with strategies, testing timing, positioning, and coordination, refining both his intuition and his calculated precision. Every moment was deliberate, every motion purposeful, the chaos of war anticipated and mastered long before the first cannon fired. Years of skill, met by a battlefield of shadows, betrayal, and power. Yi Sun-sin's brilliance did not go unnoticed. As a young man, he passed the rigorous military examinations, a test that few could conquer, earning a position as an officer in the Joseon Navy. He quickly distinguished himself, mastering naval tactics, leadership, and the art of morale, knowing that a confident sailor could turn the tide as much as cannons and steel. His reputation grew with every patrol, every skirmish, until whispers of his genius reached the court. But brilliance in politics is dangerous. Court intrigue and jealousy festered. Yi was accused of negligence during a supply mission, a charge fabricated by rivals seeking to end his rising influence. Stripped of his rank and imprisoned, he endured humiliation in chains, forgotten by the king he had vowed to serve. Even in the darkest hours, he studied, observed, and prepared. In his solitude, he calculated strategies that would one day reshape the battlefield, turning captivity into a crucible of cunning. When the Japanese invasion struck in 1592, the kingdom was desperate, and the king had no choice but to release Yi. Reinstated and given command of a modest fleet, he faced overwhelming odds, superior numbers, well-equipped enemy ships, and an enemy confident in victory. Yet Yi's mind saw what others could not: currents, tides, weather, and the psychology of fear as weapons. With the invention of the turtle ship, he transformed the seas into his domain, striking with precision and ruthless timing. From the first victory at Okpo to the legendary stand at Myeongyang, where Yi's fleet of 13 faced a Japanese armada of 333, Yi's brilliance and determination turned near certain defeat into triumph. Every maneuver was calculated, every strike intentional. He exploited the enemy's arrogance, using geography, currents, and surprise as allies. His men followed him with unshakable loyalty, inspired by a leader who could bend the tide of war itself. This was the Saint of the Sea, a commander whose courage, vision, and unbreakable resolve would become legend. Yi Sun-sin had shattered fleets and carved his name into history. But even legends bleed. His final battle would come, and the sea would claim him. Reinstated after political imprisonment, Yi returned to a navy battered and disorganized. Japan's invasion was relentless, and his fleet was small, poorly equipped, yet his mind remained unmatched. Every decision, every maneuver, reflected the years of discipline, observation, and unyielding preparation. The first test came at Okpo in 1592. Yi struck swiftly, coordinating his ships to encircle and destroy the Japanese vessels. Victory was decisive, but it was more than destruction, it was a statement. His enemies began to understand that Yi Sun-sin was not simply a commander, he was a force that could not be ignored. Next came Sacheon, where Yi unveiled the Turtle Ship, an armored vessel designed to strike fear into the enemy. The Japanese had never faced such an invention, and under Yi's command, the vessel carved through their lines with precision. Innovation met audacity, and the result was an overwhelming triumph. His sailors, once ordinary men, moved as extensions of his mind, executing his tactics with disciplined perfection. At Hansen Island, Yi executed one of his most masterful maneuvers. Using knowledge of currents and positioning, he lured the Japanese fleet into a trap and annihilated a significant portion of their supply lines. This battle solidified his reputation not as a mere tactician, but as a commander who could bend geography, psychology, and momentum to his will. Each victory built his legend, each maneuver a testament to relentless foresight. Yet perhaps his most legendary stand came at Myeongyang in 1597. 13 Joseon ships faced 333 Japanese vessels. The odds were staggering, but Yi's strategy turned despair into triumph. Currents became allies, narrow straits transformed into choke points, and every shot, every movement was calculated. Against overwhelming force, Yi's fleet struck with precision. Victory was improbable, yet it came a testament to his unbreakable resolve and the loyalty he inspired in every sailor under his command. The final chapter arrived at Noryang in 1598, leading his fleet into the decisive battle of the Imjin War. Yi fought with the same brilliance that had defined his career. Amidst cannon fire, crashing waves, and the chaos of combat, he was struck by a bullet. Mortally wounded, he did not falter or reveal his fate, ensuring his men pressed forward to secure victory. The sea, which he had so long commanded, claimed him at last. Yet even in death, his presence lingered. His tactics, courage, and vision left an imprint that could not be erased. Yi Sun-sin's legacy is measured not only in victories or the innovations he brought to naval warfare, but in the spirit he inspired. His men carried on his example. Korea remembers him as the saint of the sea, undefeated, unbowed, a symbol of courage and strategic genius. Even enemies respected him, and his tactics continue to be studied centuries later. He turned the tide of a war and carved his name into history not as a man who lived forever, but as one whose deeds would never be forgotten. Would you answer your nation's call after being wrongfully punished? Yi Sun-sin's legacy proves that courage and resolve can change history. If this story moves you, like and subscribe to uncover more untold legends. Stand ready. The tides wait for no one.